Good morning, everyone. It's me, Jessica. I'm back with a conversation about looking for a job. And this is something I often talk about actually and think about because even if you're in a job right now, what I've learned as a person working in the HR field and recruiting field and talking to a number of candidates, and even personally for myself, experiencing a layoff in the past, you always have to kind of be thinking about what you would do if your job was no more. And so I want to talk about how I specifically approach looking for a new job in different scenarios. So, the first scenario I am going to talk about today will be looking for a new job following a termination or a layoff. And I've been through this. So, I actually was laid off from a job along with half of my team in 2019. And that was tough because it was my first time experiencing a layoff from, the other end. I have had experience with having conversations with employees where the company had to make a decision to lay the person off, mainly due to financial reasons. But I had not experienced it for myself up until 2019. So, I'm going to talk about the steps that I took and some things that I would recommend for someone else if they're in that situation. And then I'm also going to talk about if you're just in a job currently and you're looking for a new job, because I've definitely done that too in the past as well. So, with the layoff experience, the first thing that you're going to want to do is understand whether you have any type of severance agreement. And if you do have a severance agreement, these are basically papers that a company will provide to an employee that they are letting go. And there's a lot of different terms that they will have. Really, what the company is looking for with the severance, for you to sign the severance, is ideally that you just don't come back to them suing for wrongful termination or something like that. So there's a lot of different conditions. Sometimes there are conditions as far as the type of clients that you would work on in the future so that they're not like in competition to them for a certain amount of time. So really just understanding that severance agreement. Sometimes I've even talked to a person, he had like 20 plus years of experience, a very high level executive within a company, and he definitely had a lawyer work through his severance agreement. And those agreements are negotiable. So he came back to make some different changes. Now, the reason a lot of people will sign a severance agreement is because, as a part of the terms, you will receive pay from the company. Now, most companies will have some type of system in place based on maybe your tenure with the company on how much severance you're going to get or receive, and how often you're going to receive that severance. So you definitely want to understand those terms. So that would be the first thing that I would do. The next thing that I would actually do is I would, and hopefully the chat function is on because I see someone in here, but I don't see anything in the chat. So hopefully you can hear me. I'm going to say, can you hear me if anyone's in here? Okay, so the next thing I'm going to suggest is following that. Let's say you don't have a severance agreement and it's just a termination. The company is not providing a severance pay or anything like that. And I will say, most companies will even provide maybe a 2 weeks severance, even if it is a termination. There are some companies that will also do that. So if you're in a case where you don't receive a severance agreement, you can move on to this next step, which is ASAP going ahead and putting in an unemployment claim. And you want to do this quickly because it does take a little time to process. And I can't imagine what could be going on right now. So you definitely want to go and do it now under, these conditions that we're in. Again, I'm talking from 2019, so that was pre-pandemic. And there are certain things that you will have to do as a part of, unemployment to receive that, but you want to make sure that you have that set up. Normally the company, if you don't really understand the process in your state, because each state has different terms and pay structures, they will provide typically some information for you about unemployment and steps to take. The next thing I would do is also, along with the termination, especially if you're receiving a severance, most companies will actually provide some type of career services to the employee as a part of this agreement, right? They provide sometimes it's extended medical or benefits, and I have had people negotiate those terms as well. And sometimes it's the actual amount of pay, sometimes it's the term amount, sometimes it's how long they would not be able to work on competing clients, for example. So that can be something else. So those agreements are negotiable. Most people don't know that. They just kind of go with it and they sign and move forward, but they are negotiable, and you can have a lawyer review it. And so, as a part of that, you definitely want to understand what you're actually receiving. So, if you are receiving some type of career consulting, I actually did in 2018. And I will say, as a recruiter, I didn't get a lot of benefit from that because I had the career consultant that I was working with. And I just met with them one time because I was like, oh, I think my resume is good. Let me just have someone else review it outside of my network. And this guy told me, oh, well, you have everything all together. And I was pretty much close to getting a job. I think it was like the second week after my layoff. And he's like, oh, well, actually, I could probably get some tips from you. And he started asking me questions. So it really just depends on what type of career consultant you actually are paired with, and sometimes the actual agency. In my experience, sometimes you're working with someone that's really what they're doing is career consultant, but they haven't actually worked in the recruiting and HR field, so they don't know as much as a person that is heavily working in the field, constantly talking with hiring managers, constantly talking with leadership, constantly talking with candidates and seeing what candidates or hearing what candidates are saying, seeing what candidates are actually putting in for their applications with the resumes. You would be surprised the type of resumes I see sometimes, type of applications I see sometimes. But yeah, they're kind of out of the mix. But not to say all career services firms are that way. So you definitely want to utilize that, see if they can provide some benefit for you. I think the main benefit they can typically provide is to do a resume review and to talk to you about the process and make any suggestions. And sometimes they may have a network. Like, these are people, just like recruiters and anyone in your network that you talk with already. These are folks that they know people in the area as well. So you may want to talk with them about that. The next thing I would do really quick is just develop a strategy. You don't just want to start applying to everything. As a part of unemployment, you will have to, there are certain standards you have to meet. You do have to put in a certain amount of applications each week, I believe it was. I don't know if there's been any changes to that. And again, each states have different standards. However, that's typically the process. So you will want to start applying to jobs. However, you do want to put some type of strategy in place. You want to take a step back, take some time before you even really get heavily into your job search, and really address some different things. Are you emotional about, especially if it was a layoff or termination? Are you emotional about anything? Do you need to talk to someone? Because if you are emotional or if you're upset, sometimes that comes out during your interviews and it doesn't go well. It takes longer for you to find something new. And thank you, random things. Hello. Hopefully you could hear me okay. And thank you for sharing me out. So, with your strategy, you definitely kind of want to address that first. And if you need to take some time before you jump into things, do that. That's something that I kind of wish I took a little bit more time to do, but I did take a day to just kind of take a breather, just relax a little bit before jumping right into a job search. So sometimes you just have to do that. I had talked to this girl. She had worked with the company we worked with that did the layoffs. And she had worked there like 15 plus years. And so it was a very emotional experience for her. Thank you, Zero. Welcome. Hello. Thank you for letting me hear me. Sometimes I'm questionable because sometimes I am literally talking for like 5 minutes and no one can hear me. So, getting back to her example, she would have been a prime example of someone that would need to take a day or two just to talk to someone. Sometimes with these severance agreements there's still benefits included in there. So if you have mental health benefits, you may want to use the time you now have to talk to a therapist if you have that a part of your benefit. Going back a little bit to the severance agreement, you definitely want to note when your benefits end. And if you have lingering appointments or anything like that, you definitely want to take up those appointments ASAP, because sometimes those benefits end at the end of the month. So let's say someone was laid off tomorrow on the 9th, the benefits typically would end at the end of the month. So you want to get into get your appointments, because it may take a little while for you to go back into getting medical benefits, even if you were to find a job as quickly as I did back then, because it took me like 3 weeks to find a job, to find a new job that was in my field. And I was happy with. I stayed with them for 2 years. And so you want to make sure that you know all of those different things. You know those deadlines, because they will approach quickly. So you want to take the time you have off and use it wisely. But yeah, sometimes when you jump into a new job, the benefits start a month after your employment or something like that. That's pretty standard. Okay, so going back into the strategy, you don't just want to jump in, apply to every single job that you think you might be a match for. You really want to take a step back, think about the work that you did, even if that means talking to coworkers or anyone that you have a good relationship with, past manager, whatever, to really do a deep dive and think about all of the accomplishments you've made and all the projects you worked on. Because I do say you need to just keep a short resume, but I also know that everything that you do within a typical job is not listed on your resume. So you really do need to do some soul searching and also think about, hey, what do I actually want to do? What do I like doing? I've said this multiple times, a layoff can be a great time to change your career, especially if you realize you've been at a, job that you don't really like. Change it up. This is a perfect time to do it, especially if you have a severance. I know people that have gotten, and I've actually talked to folks and drawn up severance agreements where they're getting weeks upon weeks of severance pay. And so they have time, you know, especially for these management, executive level roles, and you work with the company for a couple of years, you're getting severance. So you have time that you don't have to really worry so much about, paying up all the bills. You have time to do that. So really take advantage of it. So, the next thing you want to think about in your strategy, once you have identified, okay, this is the type of job I want, or these are the type of jobs I want. Maybe there are two different things that you're open to doing. Maybe for my own personal experience, I was like, I'm open to recruiting jobs and I'm also open to HR manager jobs. So that was kind of what I was going for. So from there, you want to network. So I haven't even approached the resume. You want to network with people. You want to continue talking. This is something you're going to be doing throughout your job search process, but you want to start there. And the reason you want to start there is you want to let people know that you are actively looking for a job. As a part of this process, we'll definitely be saying that you're open to work on LinkedIn, but you need to also talk to people, meet with people if you can, and just let everyone know. Let's say, like, for my experience, I would go get my hair, washed, flat iron, straightened, curled, whatever. And I told my hairstylist, and she recommended a person that was one of her clients. She was like, "Oh, this person works at such and such company. I'll ask them if they're looking." So have general conversations. It doesn't have to be you call someone up and say, "Hey, how you doing? Yeah, I'm looking for a job." That's not how it should go. It should be people that are already in your network. You're going to meet with them anyway, or you set up a, meeting with them, and you bring it up in conversation, right? It doesn't have to always be that way. Now, for maybe past coworkers and things like that, you may have more of a conversation of like, "Hey, I see you work at this company. Wanted to update you on some news. I was actually, laid off. I'm looking for something new." Or you could just keep it at, I'm looking for something new. Just let them know you're looking, because if you had a good relationship with someone and they liked working with you, they may even want you to come over to their company. You just never know. You never know. Hey, King of Kill, welcome. And hello, Partly Cloudy. Nice to see you here. Yes, everything's going well. So, this next thing I want to talk about is now getting into updating and branding yourself. So, you want to definitely look at your resume. You want to look at your LinkedIn profile. You want to look at just your online platforms and start branding yourself. Now, taking a step back with your strategy. Sometimes people decide after a layoff, they don't even want to go back to work. They want to start a new business. Well, you're going to have to take this next step anyway. You're going to want to brand yourself. So, I have different content where I'm talking about specific resume tips, but my main tip for folks that are looking for something new is to make sure that they are specifying and really catering their resume and their LinkedIn to the specific jobs they want. And you can only do that by looking to see what companies are actually posting and sharing out in their job descriptions. What are the top 5, 10 companies in your area? If they're looking for, your specific title or a couple of titles. Sometimes there's different ways to say a job, right? So for a recruiter, I could be called a talent acquisition specialist. I could be called a recruiter. I could be called a diversity recruiter. I could be, HR specialist. Sometimes are taking on recruiting work. So there's a couple different titles you may want to look for. Find out what those titles are, and then find those companies and look at how they're framing their job descriptions. What are they asking for? Are there key things that most of the companies are looking for? That's what you're going to want to put in your resume and on your LinkedIn, because if these companies are looking for that, guess what? If you have those keywords on your LinkedIn and you're saying, hey, I'm open to work, recruiters will actually come to you. They will reach out to you and say, hey, now, sometimes recruiters are reaching out to people for the wrong jobs. Unfortunately, there are some recruiters that do that. However, for the most part, they'll reach out to you for a job that looks to be in your experience level, your interest, right? So that's kind of where I'm going to end things off on, someone that has been laid off or had a, termination. Now, for someone that is actively looking for a job while they have a job, things look somewhat similar. Obviously, just taking out understanding severance agreements and unemployment claims, you're going to want to make sure that you have some time to strategize and really think about what you're looking for. What do you not like about your current job? Right? What you don't want to do is you're on the job search because you think you hate your job, but then you go into another job and you're in the same place. So you definitely want to do a little soul searching, I would say, to figure out, okay, what do I not like about this? Is it the company? Is it the manager? Is it what I'm actually doing? Am I ready for something different? Am I ready to be promoted? Why don't I have those opportunities to do that within this company? And the reason I say you want to think about that stuff is because typically a recruiter or hiring manager may ask you that question. I ask this question a lot. I'll say, why are you looking to leave such and such company? It sounds like, after I've asked them about their job, I'll say it sounds like a, pretty good job, or it sounds like you're taking on a lot of responsibilities, yada, yada. And I'll let them tell me what's going on, because a part of my conversations, I definitely want to make sure that the job we're talking about actually matches and it makes sense. And it's not like you're going to be jumping into the same thing, right? You want to be happy in the next job that you're going to be in. So I would say that strategy, and then kind of following the similar path. So you want to make sure that you understand why you're looking to leave and the specific jobs that you're searching for, and then you're going to take those same steps. So same strategy, you're networking, you're figuring out what your strategy would be. So what specific jobs are you looking for? Where, like what location, what company specifically, what are some of the things that you need to have in a job? And what would you like to have in a job, right? So, for example, I may say I need to be working on diversity recruitment in my job, but a nice to have would be managing people. Don't need to have it, but I'd like to. So, some things that you can flex on. Same with compensation. You definitely want to understand the market that you're in. So, what are typical I don't know, let me think of some other job. What are customer service reps making in Tulsa, Oklahoma? What are they making? You want to know that because you want to make sure that whatever compensation you're looking for is relative to the market or above the market. So you want to really define what you're wanting in your next job and then also what you're flexible on, and you want to be happy with that number so that when someone asks you about compensation, you don't have to deflect or just avoid the question, which sometimes people try to completely do, but you can actually talk about it in a way where you're talking about something that is competitive for you, something that you would be happy to have as far as compensation, whether it's an hourly rate or if it's a salary that you're looking at. So those are kind of the points that I have. So similar strategy, you're gonna develop what your must haves, what your nice to haves are going to be, and you're going to network with folks. Of course, you just might network in a different way. You're not gonna, for example, you're not going to necessarily put your open to work on LinkedIn unless you're in a position where your employer knows. Let's say you've been contracting for a while and your employer knows that you're looking for a job, then you're probably good there. But if you're in a place where, you're not really trying to let everyone know at your company that you're looking for a job, well, then you need to do more of your networking in person, talking to folks, right? You need to be joining different groups, professional groups that are like in your field or in your area. A lot of stuff are happening even remotely as well. Hi, Justin. So you're saying, hey, Justin, do you think it's a good idea to ever go back to an old job? It can be. It can be a good idea. It really depends. I know multiple people that have done that. And it's interesting. I actually had a guy, I was interviewing for a job, and it was an interesting conversation because he was actually trying to talk me into not really considering this company. And one of the things he said is he was working at Dell. He was working at that company, and I can say that because it's not like you guys know the name or anything. But he had worked there for a long time, and what he told me is he said, sometimes you leave for something else, and the grass isn't always greener. And I really liked that. Like he was really like opening up, and it was a really strange interview actually, but he seemed like a really nice guy. And so he was telling me all of this to say, kind of, you may have it, in a roundabout way. You may have it good where you're at. You may not want to come here. And there were some other signs that showed that it may not be a good work environment. So luckily I actually was not even offered that job. Thank goodness I was offered another job. But I was connected with him on LinkedIn. He connected with me after the interview, and he was just really nice. I looked him up maybe a few weeks after that. He had returned to Dell. He had gone back to that company. And I think those scenarios do happen. Sometimes you're not exactly getting what you want. Maybe it's pay, maybe it's the title, maybe it's the actual job responsibilities. Maybe you just didn't like your manager and you couldn't take it. And the situation changes. So maybe the manager that you didn't like is gone now. Maybe they call you up and they say, hey, you know how you said you wanted to do this? Well, we got that job now. You know how you said you wanted to make this pay rate? We can match whatever you're making at your current company. You can do that. I think it's fine as long as you ended with that old job and that old company. You ended it on good terms. I would say it's a fine idea to go back to an old job if you're going to be happy, right? And people do that actually more than you would think. Sometimes people actually solely leave companies just to level up their pay. They're not getting the compensation that they're looking for, or they're not getting the specific job opportunity they want, or something else is going on. They might love the company, they might love their job, but they have to make a move. And other times it's just they've been working in that same company for a while and they just want something different. They want to see how another company does things. They want to try, meet some other people, And I get that. It's a reason why I left my first job. I was like, look, I feel like I need to try something else. And I feel like I might be a little underpaid here. So there was a couple of reasons why, but it wasn't to the point where I absolutely was like, oh my gosh, I hate all of you. And, it was nothing like that. So now if you were in a situation, the one scenario where I would say, no, don't go back to an old job is where you literally did not like the company. Like there's very little things that you liked about it. I would really ask you and question, why do you want to go back? Why? And I would want to understand what were the reasons that you left the company. Do a little reminiscing, because sometimes a company will call you up and say, hey, we're willing to, pay you more than where you're at. However, if you go back to the company and nothing has changed, that may not be the best idea. There's always a reason why you left a company. So you just need to identify those reasons and confirm within yourself that it's a good idea to go back to that job if things have changed, right? Because things do happen. Let's say, of course, over a year or two or three, people leave, company structures change, company cultures change, different things may happen. It could be, I don't see any people that look like me in this company. I'm out. There's different reasons why people leave a job, but you just want to make sure that you're making the right decisions. And I would say the same for someone that's leaving a company. You need to really understand why you're looking to leave and what you're really looking for. Because no job is perfect. Unless maybe you're self-employed, maybe then you can make your job exactly what you want. And hello, Barry. How are you? Welcome in. Very nice to see you here. Hi, E. Dunlap. Oh my gosh, I haven't seen you in a while. How have you been? And E. Dunlap, what's going on? I have not been as heavily involved on LinkedIn last week, but what's going on? Hope you're doing well. Hey, Frugal Mama boys. How are you? Company cults rarely change. So here's the thing. Company culture can change. It takes time and it takes a leadership change. So I would also say there are different cultures within different departments as well. Like right now I'm at a company where there's different brands. So each has a slightly different company culture. And different teams have different cultures. So, who makes up a company culture? It's the people. So, if there is a reorganization, what happens as a part of a reorganization is that new leadership comes in, typically, right? Sometimes there's even branding, like the company changes their name, whatever. And then also, oftentimes people are laid off during a reorganization. That's another reason companies will lay off people. It's for they're reorganizing things, they're changing things up, right? And so if the people change, the leadership changes, and they're good leadership, you have a good leadership in place, and you're bringing the right people in, you're hiring the right people of the same values and of the same, they can kind of fit into this new culture. The culture can definitely change. It does take time. It doesn't happen overnight. You're not going to leave a company because you don't like the culture and then 3 months later come back to that job and the company culture has changed. You've been busy, E. Dunlap? Well, busy is good. Sometimes, being really busy can be great. E. Dunlap said, I had a job interview only to find out that it's entry level for all of the work the dealership requires for non-salespeople. Oh, that's annoying. Hopefully you found it early on in the job search process, like early in the interview stage. That, it can be really annoying when you have interviewed maybe with 3 or 4 people only to find out that the job isn't quite what you were looking for or expecting, or that they can't pay you a certain amount that you want. That, it happens, unfortunately, but it shouldn't happen. I'm sorry to hear that, E. Dunlap. Okay, I'm gonna hang on here for just like a few minutes. Well, it's 12:30. It's almost 12:30, so I'll hang in here for like 1 or 2 minutes to see if there are other comments. Oh, E. Dunlap says, is the head in the upper management administration that also has a huge influence, both for profit and non for profit. Yeah, for sure. Definitely. Like, I mean, it's the people. The people make the culture, and the leaders drive that culture. So if you have bad leadership and good people, what's going to happen? Good people are going to leave, right? If you have good leadership but the wrong people, you're not going to have a good culture. You found out early, but it wasn't posted on their website either. Oh, okay. Wow. That's always tough because you can't even go back to anything and say, well, this is what your job posting said. Now you can refer to what your first conversation was like. I do recommend people when you're interviewing, and I try to do this, it can be tough sometimes because you're talking to the person, you're trying to take notes, you're trying to, remember what they're saying. I get it. It can be a lot. But you should be taking some notes. Just get some of the highlights of what they're telling you about the job so you understand really what they're looking for. And also, if something changes, like if you're talking with other people and they tell you a completely different message, you can have some questions and really dig into, okay, what's going on? What really are you looking for? What are you looking for in this person? Because what you really wouldn't want, this will be worst case. You interview for a job, you get an offer for the job, and you join, and then the job is completely different than what you discussed with everyone that you interviewed with. That would be a terrible scenario, right? And again, like there's no perfect job. There's going to be things that you don't like about your job. It just happens. Like, but what you want to have is to have a higher percentage of the things that you like doing. Like for me, I don't really love administrative work, but you have to have administrative work. Even in if you have like a side business going on, you still have to do administrative work unless you hire someone to do that for you. But yeah, it happens. I'm sorry to hear that. And let me know. I mean, E Dunlap, can you remind me, are you looking for strictly remote customer service or sales type of jobs? Because some of the titles for a lot of the jobs out here, sometimes it's just not right. Companies are still trying to figure out what do we title a job because some of the jobs are even being created. They don't even know what to call the job exactly. And so we do run into those issues sometimes. E. Dunlap is saying, I take copious notes always. Another job I was told I was a great fit for gave me a different starting rate than what they said on Indeed. You know what? Indeed can be a little, Indeed and Glassdoor, you need to ask, or you should probably have that conversation early on in the interview process as far as what the pay rates are. Because if you're going off of Indeed and Glassdoor, those are sometimes wrong. I don't know where they get that information sometimes. I think they're pulling the general rates, offline. However, oftentimes the company isn't sharing a lot of that data unless you see that in the job posting. Indeed and Glassdoor, they'll kind of put in something like, hey, here's what they're paying, but sometimes they're not. They're not getting that from the company. And a lot of large companies don't even share rates sometimes. It depends. Sometimes they do. Government jobs, always, they're going to put their range out there. But you have to be careful with that for sure. That is so annoying though. Now, if they have it in their job posting, in their job description, um, that's wrong. Like if they're saying in their job description, like this is the pay rate, and then they change it up when you talk to them, that's wrong. There would have to be some reason, like, I don't know, unless they're talking to you about a separate job. Like you don't meet the requirements for this one that we posted, but there's another one that we, might have. But then they should be able to give you a job posting or share some details about it. But yeah, you do have to be careful sometimes. Justin says, thanks for that very informative answer, Jessica. The things is, although I had absolutely no problems at my last job, I left one day and never returned out of being inundated with daily work frustrations. Interesting. What were those work frustrations would be my question. And would you still have those frustrations if you went back to the job? Also, if you just left one day like you didn't give them notice or anything, you just left, I wouldn't say that would be on good terms. So unless there's someone coming to you and saying like, hey, come back to the job, whatever, whatever. It depends on what job it is, where some jobs are like, we don't care. We just need some people. We don't care what you did. Just come back. But as long as you feel like there would be no weirdness because you did leave in that way, um, just consider it and just make sure that you're not going to go into those same work frustrations that cause you to just leave out that day. That may not be the best scenario unless you're thinking very short term. You're like, oh, I'm just going to work this job for 3 months and whatever. I don't know exactly the job that you're referring to, but let's say it was I don't know. I'm just going to say warehouse, maybe a production operator role or something, and you walked out. Yeah, just make sure. I mean, you're probably going to go in that scenario. You're going back into the same type of environment, I would imagine. So I don't know if that would be the best thing for you, and unless again you're just saying, hey, I'm just going to work this job for 3 months or whatever. E Dunlap said, I think I will do what a friend of mine just told me, 1099 sales. Oh, interesting. You're saying lots of companies now believe that $15 an hour is it. Lots of companies are saying that $15 an hour is it for what? For like the minimum wage? Because I've shared some jobs that are like $20 an hour, and they're like customer service sales. One of my issues with the $15 hour campaign is that now, regardless of cost of living, these companies are like, you get what you're asking for. Now work here for 10 years. Oh gosh. Yeah. Uh just be careful which company you go for, because I mean, at the end of the day, companies are looking at their bottom line, right? And a part of that is because of the high payouts to leadership, high payouts to their investors, right? So yeah, if they can get away with paying less, some companies will, but then there's other companies that won't. It depends on the leadership, again, the ethics of the company. I've seen some different posts and information from different companies that have, some of their leadership have taken pay cuts or not, taken on a bonus or, done certain things just to make sure that their staff are paid right. So it depends on the leadership, depends on the company ethics and everything. But yeah, 10 years, when I work here for 10 years. I think we're long gone of people thinking that they're going to work at one place for 10 years. Now, it can happen. It can. However, that's not the general culture. I don't think people are just expecting to go into a job and say, yeah, this is going to be my job for the next 10 years. I doubt it. I doubt it. I don't even think that way. I don't think that way at all. I think I try to focus on the work that I'm doing, and am I happy? Like, am I generally happy in this role? Am I getting growth? Am I doing different things? Like, there's certain things that I'm focused on, but yeah, that's 10 years. I don't know if anyone's really expecting that so much. They can ask for it, but here's the thing: is are companies committing to taking on employees for 10 years? I don't think so. There's none of that. So that's tough. E Dunlap said yes, minimum wage should be $25 to $30 an hour. I don't care. I don't know. I would have to I would have to do some serious math, I think, to figure out what is the livable wage. But yeah, I think $25 to $30 an hour probably amounts to about 55 to 60,000 a year, probably, or somewhere around 60,000 a year. And I would say that's about the average pay for what you would need to make to have a livable lifestyle in most areas of the country, especially now. Again, like, we're seeing inflation. The Fed has said multiple times, oh, it's transitory. And now they're saying, oh, maybe it's not really so transitory, or maybe we might be dealing with this for a while. You're printing money. You're printing more money than usual. We're taking on more debt. Like, come on. No one's listening to you say, oh, it's just transitory, unless we have a deflationary period. The lady said she's been at the dealership for 10 years and now she's an office manager. Whoopee. Hey, if that's what makes her happy, hey, that's what makes her happy. And certain people have different goals. So I'm sure she's very happy to be an office manager at that dealership, as long as they're treating her right. And my question would be, what do you get after 10 years? Like, do you get some type of 1 year paid sabbatical after working with a company for 10 years? Are you getting, I don't know, like some type of compensation because of that? Some companies will actually provide a sabbatical for you. So I don't know. I don't know if I'd be raving about, oh, I've been in a company 10 years and I'm, this manager. That's great. I think is a great accomplishment. But for a lot of people, I think we get kind of hung up on just titles and things like that instead of looking at something real like compensation. Is very real. And it's nice to be rewarded. It's nice to have recognition. But at the end of the day, you can't eat that stuff. Recognition and rewards does not, you know, buy the baby food. I don't even have a baby, but I'm using that as an example. All right, let me get off of here. I'm going to read these last couple of comments and then I'm going to jump off. Justin says, I was a dialysis technician. Oh, at a dialysis clinic. Okay. So the nature of work is, yeah, okay. A bit, yeah, okay. Um, hmm. So you left in 2018. Well, that was a while ago. I mean, I'm things could have changed. There may be new technology in place, there may be different people. You feel like you've grown since, so you can probably handle some of those stressors, those things that were a bit nerving to you. So, in your case, I would say, yeah, why not? If you feel like you can move into that role, you feel comfortable, go for it. Use the opportunity to try it out. I mean, here's the thing. You can, even if you make the wrong decision, even if you go back to that job and you're like, oh, yeah, when I left that job in 2018, yeah, that was the right decision. Yeah, I remember now. The good thing is that change can always happen. You can always change. It's not like you're moving into a job and, to E. Dunlap's point, you're committed in something for 10 years. You can always change. So in your case, if that's what you feel like is the right thing for you, make a list of what you're wanting to get out of that job, what are going to be the must-haves for you, and if that job meets it, go for it. Why not? If you like what you're doing, I say go for it. And if you like the environment in that clinic, like the people, because that's the biggest thing. People, you have to like the people that you work with generally, get along with them, right? And then you have to like that environment as well. Like if you like working in a clinic. There are some people, I actually considered nursing years ago, and I decided not to because I was like, I don't really know if I like touching people so much. Like it's fine. And I don't know if I want to be stressed out. Like I did some nurse shadowing and they put me to work. Nurses do not play. If you ever do a nurse shadowing, they will put you to work. They'll be like, oh, okay, you can do this and this and this. Just like, okay, I'm not a nursing student, but I'm just shadowing. But okay, I guess I can do this. I was like helping turn over this lady. She was having a baby. We were putting a peanut, like there's this peanut shaped pillow thing, putting her in different positions to get you probably don't want to hear about this, but just moved around to kind of progress things along. But yes, they will put you to work. Side note, E. Dunlap said, I don't believe her. It's a car dealership. You can be an office manager at a car dealership. Yeah, most places, if there is an office or if there's some type of space, you can be an office manager or a facilities manager or whatever. There's someone that has to manage the logistics, facilities, make sure people are getting, paid. She's probably doing a lot of different things in her role though. But yeah, I'm sure office manager at a car dealership. That sounds right. That sounds right. Okay. Well, with that, I hope you like this breakdown. Those are the couple things that I would do. So just to backtrack, with layoffs, you always want to understand the severance agreement. What are the terms? When are the benefits in? What is the pay looking like? How long is it? When is it in? Right? What are the things that I have to agree to? Are there certain clients I can't work with? Right? Are there certain companies I can't work with? I can't go to if I'm agreeing to this severance. Were you wrongfully terminated? Right? So you want to make sure that before you're signing, you understand what you're signing. Generally, I mean, if you had a decent experience with a place, you're probably fine, but you just want to understand things, right? And then if your benefits are out at a certain date, you can attempt at negotiation. Maybe you want another month of benefits. Maybe the pay doesn't look right. Maybe the clients that you are slated to not work with, you actually want to work with. Sometimes people have lawyers look at those. So that's my first tip, is to just understand your agreement before signing. Apply, submit unemployment claim. That's ASAP, especially if you're not receiving a severance package, because a part of the severance agreements is that you receive pay from the company. Also, understand the benefits that you have with the severance agreements, if there's any career benefits specifically, if there's any mental health benefits as well. And then before you start digging into just applying to jobs, you will have to do that as part of unemployment, but you want to build a strategy. What is my game plan? What do I need to do over the next course every week? Like, what am I doing every day, each week? And I actually did this in 2019. I had a planner. I had the times I would spend my mornings applying for jobs and networking with people on LinkedIn. And then in my afternoons, I would be free. Like, I would just, I would be free. I would connect with people. I just kind of enjoyed some of the free time I had. But I had a plan. I kept a regular work schedule, like Monday through Thursday. I think I kept Fridays kind of free, but Monday through Thursday, 9 to 5, I was doing stuff pretty much. Sometimes I went a little over. I was doing something, right? So you want to have a plan of what you're going to do. And again, it took me about 3 weeks to find, to get the offers. I had multiple offers, and then I landed up with a really good company in the end that I stayed with for 2 years, only left for a different opportunity. And then you definitely, as a part of your strategy, need to network. Network, network, network. You're probably going to get tired of me saying it, but network every chance you get. Everyone needs to know, anyone in your network already, friends, family, hairstylist, fitness trainer, masseuse, whatever it is, they need to know that you're looking for a new job, because you just never know who they know, who they have in their network. It's not so much sometimes who you know, but sometimes it's who do you know and who do they know. People are willing to help. You just have to put it out there. And then lastly, you want to get your resume together. You want to do these steps pretty quickly, but you also, in between that, before you start building your strategy and really start heavily on the application, you want to take some time to yourself if you were a part of a layoff, because that can be an emotional experience. And then, yes, lastly, branding on resume and LinkedIn. If you are going into business, it's the same approach. You want to strategize, you want to talk to people, you want to network, and you want to build your brand online. And you can utilize LinkedIn as a part of that as well. All right, so last comments. I am over time, actually. I was trying to make this really short. 10 years is what I don't believe. I hope not, but you will be surprised. I have worked with a couple of ladies in the past. They worked in the administrative place, and one lady actually did work with this company. I don't know if it was quite 10 years, but I think she worked there. It was over 5 years for sure. So over 5 years, I'm pretty sure it was close to 10 years before she moved into an office manager job. She actually had to move locations to get the job. But yes, it can take some time, depending on where you're at. Hey, Simplistically Digital. And Justin was saying, I was living with and taking care of my 80-year-old grandmother while working there. She was sickly and old, and that was what, oh, you were balancing a lot. Okay. So now you feel you can return. I'm so sorry for your loss, Justin. Very sorry to hear that. But it sounds like you're now in a place where you can return to work. Then yeah, you're in a good position to do it. Just know how you're going to navigate it. Hey, simplistically digital. I should have never deserted that clinic. They were a fine group of healthcare professionals, but those things I already shared along with the bad relationship just taking its toll. Well, do they know that? Because here's the thing, before you leave a company, you don't want to just leave. You should share, what's going on. Like, hey, I'm gonna have to take a break from this job. I have some personal situations going on. Even if you don't want to say specifically what's happening, they may, people may want to know. I mean, people care about other people and are like, oh my gosh, what's going on? But you can share. You can tell those details. Um a relationship with someone on or off job. It happens. I know a couple people that have done that and they are happily married to this day. So I don't condone it necessarily because it can cause some issues when it doesn't go right, but it happens. And normally one of the folks, if not both, end up leaving the company. They don't end up typically working together. I am on the cusp of looking for a new job. Whoop, whoop. Oh my gosh, everyone is. When is a pay cut worth it? Hmm. For me, For me, I don't know if a pay cut is so much worth it, but it can be for different people. It really depends on your understanding of the market. Like, what does the market pay? So, for example, if I were to move into a job as a teacher, I know that would be a pay cut. However, it would be worth it for me if I knew 100% like, hey, this is what I want to do. This is my dream job. This is what I want to do. Whether it goes wrong, whether it goes right, I want to do this. Well, it's worth it to you at that point. Take the pay cut. However, if you're doing the same job and you're going to take a pay cut, I don't agree with that. I don't know if that's really the right thing to do. It really depends on what you're looking for. If money's no object to you, and you just want a job and you want that specific job and it's paying less, go for it. Look for one while you still have one always. Yes, I do agree. I've said that a couple times. Always be looking when you're like, if you're looking for a job and you already have a job, that's the easiest time for you to find something new. Yes. However, a lot of the content I did provide was more so layoff related, termination related, because I myself I do think about what if I were in that position again, what would I do? And those are the steps I would take. Kind of like dating. People like the fact that you have someone while moving on. So, from the company perspective, I think right now many companies understand that if you've been a part of a layoff, I don't think it's as much of a issue now. The biggest thing is that you're doing some type of work. So even if it's not like you have a full-time job right now, you're doing contract work, you've been doing some freelancing work, you have client work that you can show and you can talk about and you can say that you've been doing. If you're not in a job right now, you should be doing some type of work. Even if it's volunteer work, even if it's your cousin needs work on her website and you happen to be a designer and you can do the work for her, add it to your resume and talk about it. You're doing work. But yes, it's the easiest time to find a job is typically when you already have one because you're actually doing the work. It's not like, and I've recruited people that were like, okay, months ago, like early in this year, I recruited a lady and she was out of the job market for a couple of years being a stay-at-home mom. But I talked to her, she sold me, she had the skills, I moved her along the process, and the team agreed. They loved her. They were a little skeptical as well. They were skeptical with the resume because it's more about recent work. Can you jump right into the job, or will you need a little more help than the other folks that we want to hire? But if you can sell that and you can say like, hey, I've been doing this, because when you're a stay-at-home mom, depending on what job you're moving into, you're doing work. You're working. You're still working. And it's super helpful when you're doing maybe something on the side or you're, staying busy that way too, because you can point to that experience as well. But yeah, I mean, stay at home moms are working. It's not like you're just sitting at home eating bonbons. Frugal Mama Boy says, I've been at my company for almost 22 years, various positions. So, key thing, Frugal Mama Boys, various positions. So, you have moved around. The lady I'm referring to that moved into the office manager role, she was in pretty much the same role and then jumped to an office manager role. So, that's really good. I love that. And I am guessing you are a little, I feel like I've seen you. You're a little older, right? A little bit older. Of the generation that probably stays stays at jobs longer. People in my generation, no. Until they find the right thing. Like if you found the right thing, you found the place you want to be long term, that's great. But typically what you will see is that people move titles or, move into different jobs or roles, or if it's a really large company, they move to different teams. So that way you can get more experience, and you're also, a lot of times you're getting a different pay for that different job that you're taking on. Okay. I'm going to try to get through this really fast. That's when you typically make a move. Makes sense. I've dated people on the job. When the company doesn't provide benefits, I figured I should create my own. That is hilarious, E Dunlap. I will say I have done it one time too. I don't know. I mean, it didn't go great. It didn't go bad. It was just, but that was like a really long time ago, really long time ago. And then I was in an environment where I had the opportunity to, and I refused to do it. So and I stuck with the standard. I just don't date people at work. And that was my excuse every time. I married a guy off one of my former jobs. Bad idea. You guys are a mess. Wait a minute. Sorthy. Okay, so you married a guy off one of your former. That's hilarious. You guys are cracking me up. Great broadcast, Jessica. If you don't do this for a living, you should. You're a good consultant. Oh, thank you, Justin. I actually do provide career consulting 101. So if you're interested, let me know. Let me see. Let me see if I can find my link tree and provide it to you. But yes, I do provide career consulting. Thank you for that. I appreciate your nice, kind message. I don't do it full time. I don't, but I do provide career consulting services. I've started a new job, so I've kind of slowed down on it. But my last client was last month, and so this month, well, we're only in like 9 days or 8 days in August, so but I haven't had a client for about a little over a week. So you're 45. Okay, so yes, you're of the generation that would stay at companies longer. Millennials, forget about it. Some of us do. Some of us stay at companies for a longer time period. I'm one of the millennials that would stay at a company for a little longer time period, but not 10 years. I don't know if I see myself doing that, but maybe, who knows? What about a sabbatical? Is that something that you recommend? I changed jobs but never took time off. I actually talked about a sabbatical early on in this broadcast. Yes, I recommend if a company offers that benefit to you, take a sabbatical. If you just need to take time for yourself and you're set up financially to do it, take a sabbatical. Why not? And if you change jobs and you never take time off, always take time off, even if it's just a week. Take a week. I did this for the first time this year, and I wish I had always done it that way. I have taken like a few days, like I think 2 days before, starting a new job. This time I took a week off. I needed that week. Just take time off. I love the new mindset of moving around. You grow. Yes, yes. So the key thing I wanted to point out with your comment is that you moved around. There are some people that will work a job, stay at a company 10 years, and they haven't changed jobs. And that's tricky. That's really tricky. Because how do you really grow if you're not constantly, I shouldn't say constantly, but learning new things, meeting new people, taking on new, skills and things. It's tough if you're doing the same job for 10 years. Companies now purposely make sure you don't stay too long due to costs, but that doesn't make sense either. I don't know what you mean by that because unless it's a place where they're providing a pension, uh, most companies it actually costs them money to have a good employee leave. Now, if you're a bad employee, yes, some companies will manage a person out, right? But if you're a good employee, they're going to lose money because you're losing money. Like when you don't have someone in a role, you are spending money to find someone new, whether that is because you're using your recruiting resources internally or you're contracting someone out, paying a temp agency, you are getting a staffing agency to find someone. That all costs money. Costs money. This is my link tree for anyone that's interested in like adding me on social media or also consulting. And if you are a member, you do get a free one-on-one consultation if you're a job seekers level or higher. Depends on the industry. Exactly, Swarthy. They definitely don't like paying you for your years at some. See, that's the thing. This is the thing that I talk about sometimes. Depending on where you're at, what type of job you do, when the reason a lot of people will leave a company too is just to get a pay rate that's competitive, because when you're at a company for a long time and you see other people join a company, sometimes those pay rates are different. There's not a lot of internal equity unless the company is proactively making sure that your pay is equivalent or not too far off from other people that have recently joined the company. We're seeing that with some of these companies that are hiring cashiers and stuff in stores, paying them $20 an hour just because they need people. They're desperate. They'll pay you whatever. Just come work so we can keep operating. And the people that have worked there, they haven't increased their pay, right? That's not good. It's not good practice. Because what's going to happen to them? If I were in that boat, I'm working as cashier at what, $14 an hour, and I see you hire this person, you're putting up signs, $20 an hour. I'd probably go look for another store to work at that would pay me that amount. But that's just, me thinking out loud. I think that's really tough spot to be in. Always take time off. Never feel guilty. Exactly. You just need it. Hey, Buddha, welcome in. How are you? Okay, I'm going to jump off here. You guys, you have been fantastic. Thank you for the great conversation. I hope these tips and this conversation was useful, especially for my job seekers. And I do provide uh, consultations if you are struggling with a job search. Now, if you just need a resume reviewed, whatever it is, we can definitely talk about it. The consultation will help me understand what's going on with your job search. I don't just say, oh, you need a new resume automatically. That's not always the case. Oh, you're interviewing the wrong way. That's not always the case. You're looking for the wrong job. That's not always the case. But somewhere in that, depending on how your process is going, is typically what I can find out in a consultation call with someone, and then we can develop a plan. So if you're interested, that link is in the chat. And with that, I will let you all go. I hope we all have a nice Sunday. By request, I am talking later today on a topic by one of my subscribers, King of Kill, subscribers and members. He suggested a topic, and so I will be talking about the whole Dr. Dre not helping his daughter scenario. I need to do a little reading up on it though, but I will be talking about that later today. I think at 8 o'clock, 8 p.m. Central. So have a great day, everyone. Thank you. Bye.